What is up ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another video. So in this video I'm gonna give a brief rundown on how I made my goal to get my, well, Longboi, to get the point from the start to where I am now. Well, pretty much as a casual gold maker. So just a brief rundown on my background in World of Warcraft. So I started playing actually in World of Warcraft during the Burning Crusade. Well, pretty much the last days of Burning Crusade, because the day I hit 70, Wrath of the Lich King dropped. So, time to get to another level cap. I played during all of the Wrath of the Lich King. I raided a bunch, and I already back then started to get interested in gold making. And I also played a bit in Cataclysm, but then I decided I would jump off the game. Like, the people I played with weren't playing anymore, and there were a lot of stuff involving around it. So I didn't play during that time period between Cataclysm and, well, Battle for Azeroth, pretty much. And I got back in, I think it was 8.1. I've always enjoyed raiding, so that was pretty much the reason for it. So alright, just a brief rundown on why I actually got into gold making. I was always struggling to keep up with my consumables when raiding and doing Mythic Plus, and it got pretty tedious pretty fast. It was exhausting not to always have enough gold, and I decided to actually get a tad bit into gold making to keep up with everything that I needed. So I decided to go into gold making in patch 8.2, I suppose. So it was in mid-September or something, just when 8.2 dropped. At that time period, I had 100,000 across all of my characters. So what I started doing was I started leveling up the pets, and I actually bought out level 1 Ickies, like the pet you can actually see on your screen, and ultimate battle pet charms, and instantly got it up to 25. And just reposting them up on the auction house. And you needed those pets in order to get reputation from both Nazjatar and in Mechagon. I should also mention that I played on a full pop server. It was good profits for sure, but my pet charms obviously ran out, and I didn't want to level the pet manually. So I thought to myself, what the fuck am I actually gonna do? So what I did was I actually started to take a look at my professions. With my first character that I had was obviously my warlock. And on this character I actually have both enchanting and tailoring. So I started looking at them and, well, what can I actually sell? What can I craft for a profit? Both of these professions I have had like since back in Wrath of Lich King and Cataclysm, and I decided to keep those. So what I did was I downloaded TSM and I started getting into the actual enchanting market. I opened up this window and I was like, alright, so what can I actually make that is profitable? So I downloaded TSM and started slowly getting into the enchant market and getting into the tailoring market. So the first thing I did was a lot of enchant actually. I had worked up my reputation, so I had like accords on rank 3, and I had all of the other weapon enchants on rank 3 as well. So what I did was I actually started crafting pretty much everything that like made a profit, and slowly and really careful. So I would craft maybe one, post them up on the auction house, and see if they were selling. For those of you guys who stopped by my stream and know me, like, you guys know that I have never ever been much for actually farming, like materials in order to actually put them up on the auction house. When I used my professions, like slowly my gold actually started to increase. I'm a greedy bastard, so I obviously wanted more gold. So I checked up a couple of guides and all that kind of shit. So I started looking into TSM as well. For those of you who's new to TSM and have started to learn TSM from like way back when, you probably remember that TSM was pretty fucking hard. Like, it's a lot of knowledge that you had to take in. There is a ton of customizability within TSM, but it's pretty hard. And for me, that was pretty hard, and I needed to learn to someone who already knew what they were talking about. To be honest, it was pretty easy. I searched gold making on YouTube and came upon Samadan Plays WoW. So I watched his guide on his TSM setup and I pretty much loved it. I learned a ton from his channel, so I would definitely recommend you guys checking out if you're new to TSM or you're starting to learn it or you're having troubles with something. And I will leave a link to his channel in the description down below. With Samadan's group, I got his group as well, and he's always been using tailoring and enchanting for gold making as well, which was pretty much perfect for me on a full pop server. So everywhere where I looked at and how I got into gold making, they always stated that you need to have a gold making goal. So I set up my long-term goal. Obviously, it was the Longboi. My short-term goal was actually to get 100,000 gold on my bank tune. I decided I would utilize my garrison. Huzzah! And I started to set it up. At some point I got in pretty decent sales, but I still wasn't going where I wanted to go fast enough. So what I did was that I leveled up my Demon Hunter, as you can see on the screen. Well, I knew that enchanting would be a pretty decent seller with the transmutes and everything that revolves around the actual alchemy. So yeah, and besides, I decided that since he is actually using herbs either way, that I decided to go use inscription on him as well. That way I wouldn't be forced to send herbs to a bunch of different characters. That way I could have them on a single character. So I got up my Demon Hunter and my alchemy and inscription on this character. The reason why I logged into my robe is because around that point, after I got up my Demon Hunter and my alchemy and inscription, the team that I used to run M+ keys or Mythic+ dungeons decided that, well, we need a rogue, and because we didn't have anyone in our team. So I volunteered to actually leveled one up, because, well, leveling hasn't never really been an issue for me. I can't enjoy it actually. So sales were going obviously better with more professions, and the way I went from it is that I actually got engineering on this character. One reason is that there are a bunch of mounts, there are a bunch of pets, and the current content utility of engineering has always been pretty good. After that, I started to log in pretty much religiously on each and every one of my characters and do my daily cooldowns. Around this point I was around 1 million approximately in gold, and my friends were playing on some other server, and you know, I felt kind of alone on my full pop server because I wasn't in a guild, or I wasn't in anything like that really. So I bought up a bunch of items, loaded my guild bank full, and transferred to my 3 characters to a different server using WoW tokens. So I set up my posting tune and got working on my gold making there. So the sales were for much higher, like the profits were for much higher. Sale rate was, well, way lower since I had gone from a full pop server to a medium pop server. But at this point I still wasn't satisfied with the gold I was making. And I realized that I was missing a lot of professions, so I started leveling up new tunes in order to actually utilize more professions. So I leveled up my monk, got skinning and leatherworking on him, and I knew that I was playing on a medium pop server, so I knew the skin prices would be really high. I thought I could grab the skins while leveling, and I've actually kept both skinning and leatherworking on this character. So around this point I was like 1.5 million gold. I was very pleased, but nowhere near my Longboi though. So I continued to watch more videos on how to make gold, and I came across Bregvid's video on how to flip items, on how to do different types of bob and stuff on the auction house, and I started out really small. Also, I will link to his channel in the description as well. So now that I had the capital for actually do flipping and those kind of stuff, I've actually set up a bunch of rules for myself, because I knew I could go haywire with flipping and pretty much end up losing all my gold. I will make another video on like what rules I used and how I implemented those rules. So I started up with small things, mostly herbs actually, because well, I also needed the herbs for my alchemy and my inscription. So after monitoring prices, I thought, well, pretty much herbs was something great with, since, as I said, I needed them either way. It went good, and I had started mount flipping. Procedure really that I did with herbs, I monitored the prices, what they were going for, and what I did was I bought them when they were cheap and pretty much sold them when they were high. And slowly and steady my gold was rising, obviously, but at this point I was like too million gold, and I really wanted that Longboi. So I set up my garrison for all my characters. What I did that really changed a lot for me is that I actually set up another account. That way I could spend more time at the auction house without it affecting my actual game time. Because that way I could play the game and still be at the auction house and camping that one whenever I was at the computer. Since I realized actually there were a lot of gold makers on my server posting and wanted to make that gold, but I wanted more gold as well. So I started looking into streamers who were gold makers whenever I was online, and pretty much started asking them for help. So like, don't be afraid actually to ask for help. Like, there hasn't been a streamer or gold maker that I've asked for help that has up and down like declined me. So like, don't be afraid to ask. During this time, or this period of time, I actually looked into more and more on TSM and how to actually make my own operations and group from a starting point, using like Bregvid's and Samadan's groups and operations as a starting point, that I could develop my own groups and operations to suit my needs. One thing though, I've always like had a hard time seeing cooking would be or actually like how cooking can be good. So I thought to myself, screw it. And for those of you who've seen my mailbox opening, you guys know that I do sell a lot of food. For those who haven't, I recommend checking them out, where I go into deep dive with more items that I sell. So I got into cooking as well, and I was surprised over how good cooking was doing. However, since it's been a while since the patch has gone and the cooking market crashed, and I decided to actually like pull out. At this point, Blizzard announced that they would be dropping patch 8.3, and I asked the gold makers how they would be prepping before the patch release. A lot of them were stocking up on Expulsum, and I decided that so would I. So I went to scrapping bracers, and I scrapped a lot of bracers. Like, not as much as other people, but I've scrapped my fair share of bracers. So I leveled up my other professions that I hadn't leveled up at this point, and I pretty much had all the professions. I kept a really close eye on how H.3 was developing, looking into new patch builds, looking into professions, seeing what type of uncanny gear would be craftable, what would happen with alchemy and enchanting and cooking. Were there going to be new recipes out? How do you get them as fast as possible? Would there be new levels to professions? Because we had new levels in new recipes and new levels from 8.1 to 8.2. Or 8.1.5 to 8.2. All this kind of stuff to make myself like as prepared as I could for the new patch. I was still flipping, but flipping has always been really more of a side hustle for me. Anyway, I decided I would go hard on this patch and make a lot of gold. So I decided to invest a lot of gold, and I would not recommend anyone doing this. I invested like 2/3 of my gold, almost completely on Xenanthid, and I had hundreds of thousands of them. So I invested in ore and a lot of herbs. Something that I knew that I needed to do was to actually invest. Since I wasn't farming my own mats, I have never really been afraid to invest in gold. I knew at this point that I could always get it back though. So my theory was that since people would be going away from Nazarchar, the prices of the Xenanthid and Osmanite ore would actually increase in price. Now, this was a theory from my side, and I put a lot of gold into my theory, really. I think I was ready, and in hindsight, I would have actually put way more gold in Xenanthid. I would have invested all my gold. It's actually like pretty hard to know. So patch 8.3 dropped, and I went all out on the gold making. I crafted tons of uncanny gear. Prices of food were like skyrocketing, so I put those up on the auction house again. I went hand on alchemy, food, enchanting, because I thought that the consumables would be in a really high demand at least the first few weeks of the patch. And candy gear sold really well at the beginning of the patch, so I restocked a lot, kept selling, kept restocking, kept selling. At a point, I was really close to my longbow, so I decided to go with the flow and just keep going as hard as I did. At this point, when I was really close, I thought to myself that I really didn't want to quit gold making. Like, I was, to be honest, having a fucking blast with it. So I decided that I would need some new goals to work towards. So I decided that I would be working towards the spider mount. I actually haven't bought it yet. And this is the mount that I was talking about, the Bloodfang Widow. And what I also want to do was pretty much purchase all the other mounts that you could for gold. And that includes buying the in-game store mounts as well for gold that I buy WoW tokens for. So on that very week, I actually had enough gold to actually buy my Longboi. And I was hyped. I was hyped for sure. So, is there any lessons that I learned from my journey from 100,000 to 5 million that I want to share with me? Well, first of all is that I'm really not afraid investing, and I could go way more, like investing more and way harder, and like actually putting a lot of gold into investing. From what I understand, I actually have a pretty good nose for it. Like, I don't recommend you guys just going haywire and like investing in whatever, because it usually doesn't work. Because what I do is that I actually like keep track of markets and price and see how the trends are developing. So as I said, more investments for sure, and keeping track of those. I also gather a lot of information, like Zenanthid for an example, in order to like make good decisions that will bring me more gold for my investments. So what else have I learned? I learned that you can make gold from professions only, that you don't have to farm like almost at all. I rarely farm, and the reason for when I farm is if there aren't enough items up on the auction house for what I want to craft. For an example, like sometimes I farm spare parts in order to make food that require those. Mostly McDowell's. I don't actually do the famine, whatever it's called, the feasts. With those, I also obviously farmed ionized minerals for that very same reason. Lesson that I learned is always keep a backup plan. For like, what if this flip I'm doing is actually not working out? Could I somehow take advantage of actually using these items that I bought for something else? Like, alright, so as an example, I bought 40k deep sea satin for a cheap price on my server. I knew that at some point those deep sea satin would go down again, so what I would do with the rest if they didn't sell? Well, with deep sea satin and tie spray linen, you can make deep sea bags, and with the deep sea bags are good sellers, so I got my deep sea satin and tie spray linen and make my deep sea bags really cheap to craft. So I could use my deep sea satin for that, and that is exactly what I mean to actually keeping track of a backup plan. I also learned to actually diversify my income sources, not just going hand on one thing, let's say, I don't know, enchanting or cooking, because with how the auction house works, it is enough that one person comes around and that can really fuck you up. One person with enough stock can completely crash a market, and that is what I mean by diversifying. If you got other markets you can work with, you're completely fine, because it's not your only source of income. So yeah, diversifying, not keeping all the eggs in the same basket. So I've also learned to actually take advantage of holiday events, especially those that you can get bind and equipped mounts from. Also, one more important thing that I've actually learned is there will always be assholes on the auction house. Learn how to deal with them. Of course, I get fucking frustrated sometimes when someone comes along and completely fucks up my market, but I learn to deal with it. Take my advice on it. Otherwise, your gold making journey or gold making experience or whatever is gonna be way harder. Yeah, that is really like my journey to how I got the gold in order to buy my Longboi, and some of the lessons I've learned along the way. Sorry for this video taking so long, but I've been slacking a bit. I've been busy, I've been streaming, I've been studying, I've been working, I've been building a new house, so you know, I have a lot of stuff on my plate. But I will make sure to post some other stuff than my weekly mailbox openings. I am working on a video about the actual rules I follow as a gold maker in order to make my gold. Thank you everybody for tuning in and listening to this casual gold making's rambling. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it and if it's any helpful at all, and do not forget to sub to the channel. Leave a comment if you have any questions or anything you want to tell me, like if I'm completely off on some point or whatever. Like, I'm obviously not the pro gold maker, call myself the casual gold maker for a goddamn reason. Hit me up. Follow me on social media to get updates. Links are in the description down below. And come watch me stream. gold making amongst other things. We actually got a pretty dope community of gold maker, and if I can't answer your question, I'm pretty sure one of those can. And guys and ladies, I will see you around. Have a good time. Bye.